mechanisms, sometimes there can be delays if it ultimately reaches that point of last resort, which we're seeing at the moment of a housing sale, very few and far between, fortunately. That can be a long delay to get to that point. Most are resolved well and truly before then. What is incorporated in these is we're payment plans. So we still recognise it as a debtor, but it may well be a payment plans in place to pay on a fortnightly or weekly basis to try and catch that debt out. So those mechanisms are in place. Similar for things like development contributions. Sometimes an arrangement we put in place for cash flow for purposes where time is given for the development contribution to be paid, and that's part of an original agreement signed up.
And because the further supplementary question, Chair, bless you, it's the November one which is pleasing for me in regards to 15 and 16 and I'm talking our rates, not development contributions. This is why I've asked, is at least what we've got in place is working, where our ratepayers are giving as much opportunity to pay what is owed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Casey?
Well, just to say how pleasing it is always to see the libraries performing well. They're 400,000 issues ahead of target, and also the fantastic result by our in-house animal management team. That's, the response to urgent animal call, or urgent, what is it we call them? Urgent attacks, urgent complaints. That's a great result, and it's the first time I think I've seen it regularly over two quarters, so that's magnificent. So that means that any call anywhere in Auckland for an urgent response is managed within 1 hour, and that's incredible. Good on them.
Thank you. Councillor Wood.
Yeah, thank you. Mine questions in relation to dogs as well. I see on page 52 that the unregistered dog percentage is 86 when we're targeted 99%, and Mr. Kimpton may be answer this. There's 15,000 unregistered dogs that we know about, and we're into late registration fees now. So if it's a dangerous dog, it's $250. So if you calculate that, that could help to cover our shortfall in funding somewhere along the line. So do we employ bounty hunters to pick up those dogs?
Yeah.
Or are we thinking about those ideas?
Could be a good retirement
Bounty hunters.
So
Just shoot them.
have we got a program to get onto those dogs?
So we have been employing some brainstorming on alternative revenue sources, but I didn't see that one coming.
An ex-policeman would have a lot of expertise.
But if I can just talk to it, I don't have the percentages offhand, but I do think that you'll find that our percentage of dogs licensed that we know are out there has been increasing over time, particularly as we've gone online. And so over time we've seen an improvement. Are we at our target? No, we're not. But how are we relative to previous years? We've certainly improved. That's probably about as much as I can say at this stage. And as for the unregistered dogs, that's probably more a function of the owners than is...
The owners, not the dogs.
Not the dog.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Wood.
You let the dogs out.
Bounty hunters.
Councillor Lee.
Yes,
Bounty
thank you very much. Could I make a plea for
It only lasted a day.
a bit more technical clarity and less use of jargon in financial reports? I'm referring to the subject capital investment, which perhaps influenced by a discussion yesterday, I was somewhat misled for a little bit about what capital investment was referring to here. It's properly capital expenditure, is it not? It would be, given that the Treasury or the Finance Department now is an investor, having taken away Auckland Council Investment Limited's major diversified fund investment, that we be a little bit more precise about what we're talking about. Otherwise, we're in danger of putting our salaries into operational investments. So let's call capital expenditure. Most of because of our role and because of what we have to purchase or buy or build, the social infrastructure we pay for doesn't necessarily return a financial investment. In fact, more often than not, it returns a loss, and that's probably normal in most of the time. So let's be precise about capital expenditure. That's what it is. Just like operational expenditure, that's what it is. It's not an operational investment, properly called, and refer to investments when they relate to investments.
If I can just respond here briefly through the chair. The word investment is used within the context that it's actually trying to link the notion of money is spent for a purpose.
Well, money well spent, it's not an investment.
And an investment there is not necessarily for a financial return. The investment here is for social outcomes, for environmental outcomes.
All of it. We understand that, and I'm a politician, I talk about investment, but if you're a finance officer, you should really be talking about capital expenditure in a technically correct way, otherwise it's confusing.
But that's one view, isn't it, Chair?
But you are an investor as well.
Thank
just
you,
one view.
councillor Lee.
That's all it is.
These are the finance people.
Certainly.
Now, I have councillor Brewer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I was interested in seeing the numbers of building consents and Statistics New Zealand released quite a telling analysis of 2015 of Auckland's building consent numbers, and particularly around apartments, with apartment consents up 68% and townhouses also notably up. And I suppose to a certain extent, following on from yesterday, I believe there is a role for our organisation to get the message out that there is stock coming to the market. And I would argue that it's arguably never been a better time for a young person to buy an apartment and get a 3.95% interest rate. Anne Gibson from the New Zealand Herald will tell you for free, Madam Chair, property editor, that there are 54 apartment complexes going up now. You don't need to go to Barfoot and Thompson's sale room in Shortland Street and bid against 100 others. You walk in and buy them for spec with a $50,000 deposit. And my point being is that I would like to see all the cranes that are back on the horizon from all around Auckland, as when I first turned up in 2001, you could see them from College Hill. This time around, they're building a lot better stock, and the quality has improved. Many of them are freehold, and many of them are selling good quality apartments for around that $500,000 mark starting. And so I believe there's a role for our organisation to really not promote the developments, but certainly highlight the stock that is coming to market and the increase in and around apartment consents. Because listening to some people yesterday, anyone would think there was nothing out there to buy. Yet if you got in my car, I'd take you around 2 dozen showrooms and you could buy them on the spot for $500,000.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Very good.
No way.
It's amazing. Don't think any of my kids have got $500,000.
Exactly.
Well,
Councillor
okay, well, they'd have to move to the South Island then, won't they?
Well, they've just moved to Thames, actually.
Take a roll.
Councillor Watson.
Well,
Quite a few people going to Huntley,
Orake.
but just a question on the customer service information, and I don't know if you have the specifics of that, but just looking at the contact centres, where there was in that quarter 68% service level. I just want to make sure I'm understanding what that means. Does that mean roughly 1 in 3 calls isn't answered, or can people just not get through and then the operator calls them back at a later point? What does that actually mean? Sorry, page 64, which seemed to be a relatively low response rate.
Yeah, no, apologies. We'll have to check on what that actually means. I believe, but I can't be actually sure, that it's actually to do with the actual number responded within a certain time frame as a response rate, but it's not that they're not answered, but I'll check that out and come back to you.
Look, I can confirm that is the case. It's within, they have specified response times, so it's whether they've achieved that response time per call coming in. It's not whether the call's never been received, it's whether it's been received and dealt with, and according to the their service level targets. But we can get you some feedback on what those are, so you
what
understand them.
Yeah, so what I'm interested in, Dean, is like if people call and they don't get through, or they're not answered for any reason, is there then, does someone from the council actually then get back to them? It's not, 1 in 3 calls just doesn't get through and that's the end of it.
So it's the wait time,
Yeah.
and it's the handling period that they measure, and so we can come back to you with what those response times are, so you understand the context of these percentages. I just don't know them offhand.
Thank you. Councillor Penrose.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just want to make a comment in regards to animal management, and maybe the government needs to change the legislation and register the owners, not the dogs. But in and around the 1st of April, I know there's a lot of talk when it hits the media, like a lot of things around here, and then followed up. And I suggest that we're trying to tee up on the 1st of April a site visit to our Animal Management Centre out at Sharkey Street, which runs the whole southern area, east and the south, and to try and give an overall view of what we're trying to roll out for the west and the north.
Yep.
And I would say it's critical that the councillors come along to that. It is on the 1st of April, and I assure you we won't be locking up in a cage, but it'll be worthwhile going, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. No other questions. My only comment, Kevin, is that on page 37, 25 and 26, you're talking about new recycling collections will commence in Rodney. I don't think that's, and it says since September, North Shore, Waitakere and Rodney. I'm not sure whether that's Orewa, but it's not Rodney, and in the budget update we're going to actually give some money back to people in Rodney because we've been charging them for something they're not getting. So can we tidy that up, because I wouldn't like people picking that up. I know it's
was
parts of
intention.
the old,
Yes.
I think it's Hibiscus Coast, but we do have to be careful with our terminology.
Yep. Yeah, no.
Okay,
Good,
thank you. It's been moved and seconded. I'll put it, all those in favour.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Kevin.